Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Robo Celestial here with a new video for you. Welcome to the complete of What If Deku Had Boosted Gear. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. Before we get into the what if, I'll give a quick rundown what boosted gear is. Boosted gear, or formerly called a scared gear or also known as the Red Dragon Emperor's Gauntlet, is a mid-tier Longinus, where the Welsh dragon, D-Drag, resides in. The gauntlet has the ability to enhance the user's capabilities as well as transferring power to anyone or an object. The more power the user gives to X amount of a thing, weaker it gets. Boosted gear will shout boost. This doubles the user's physical capabilities and demonic power every 10 seconds until they reach their limit. This is shown by the dragon in the gauntlet saying boost. The user can also store the power of items or weapons, and it allows them to wield their capabilities. The gauntlet can also promote an evil chest piece such as the Rook, Knight, Bishop, and Queen. This basically gives the user the power of the chest piece they promote to. For an example, if the user promoted to Rook, he or she would have the traits of a Rook, which are high defense and attack but have low demonic power and are quite slow. If they promoted to a Knight, they'll gain the speed of a Knight but have a bad defense. If they promote to a Bishop, they'll get enhanced magical abilities which consume a lot of magic and take time to recharge. If they turn into a Queen, they'll have an even balance of all three of the pieces. This gauntlet reacts and responds to the user's feeling and desires, which can make them stronger or change the gauntlet completely. Also, the gauntlet has a dragon sealed into it that can talk to the user. It might sound overpowered, but it has weaknesses such as magic, dragon slayer magic, curses, and swords. The Red Dragon Emperor's Gauntlet Balance Breaker, which can be activated by the gauntlet reacting to the user's feelings and desires, but usually the first time is hard to do, but after it's easier to do it. Balance breakers have basically hidden the power of any scared gear, which you can think of it as a final form in a sense. When the Red Dragon Emperor's Gauntlet goes into balance breaker mode, it gives a user a full bodysuit that looks like a red dragon called Scale Mail. With this, the user can double their power every second until they hit their limit, but this drains the user badly, and so does the normal gauntlet itself. For this what if, we'll give Deku the final form of the boosted gear as his quirk, which gives him the abilities of what was stated previously, and gives him the power to transfer power, but he will not have his balance breaker yet. I'll be referring to the dragon in the gauntlet as D-Drag since it's much easier than making one up. D-Drag wouldn't know much about this universe, and Deku would explain it and talk about it to D-Drag. Contrary, D-Drag would give insight about his universe too. Deku wouldn't be bullied at all in school because he has a quirk, which also means Bakago respects him more, but he's still mean to him because he's jealous of him. Deku would also be more confident than at the start of the anime. Fast forward towards months before the entrance exams, Bakago says jealously, you're planning to join UA. You won't make it, you should just jump off the school building. Deku knows he's jealous of him, so he takes this with a grain of salt and walks home. As Deku is walking home, he runs into the sludge villain. As he's about to attack, Deku activates his scared gear on his right arm, a red gauntlet with 2 green jewels and 10 golden spikes that manifests on the Deku's arm. The gauntlet yells boost. Deku jumps back and launches a red energy blast which splits the sludge villain in half, but the sludge villain reforms and attacks again, when suddenly, All Might yells, I am here. Missouri Smash. Deku is excited. He gets to see his idol saving him, making winds, pushing the sludge villain into a bottle. All Might says, I saw what you did, good work and stay safe. All Might jump away, but Deku grabs onto All Might legs, making him drop the sludge villain as they head to the rooftop. Deku asks All Might if he can be a hero with his D-Drag interrupts and says he's a really big fan of you, even has you all over his room. Deku in embarrassment says stop, that's not true. All Might realize this kid is a mega fan and then laughs while spitting out blood as he becomes skinny. Deku freaks out and says, are you a fake All Might? All Might says, no, this is me. I had an injury that not even the best of the best doctors could fix. Please keep this a secret, will ya? More importantly, your quirk can talk to you. D-Drag says, yes, I am a dragon that can talk, that's sealed into this gauntlet. All Might is shocked. He's never seen a quirk like this before. He says you can easily be a hero with that quirk, and leaps away. Deku checks to see if his book is signed, and surely enough it is, which makes him smile. He walks back home when suddenly he sees a crowd of Hero and Sylvalens. Deku's gauntlet yells boost several times as he's running towards the crowd. Deku sees his classmate Bakago. Deku then realizes he made All Might drop the villain. Deku thinking to himself, why aren't the heroes doing anything? They shouldn't. Hesitant at times like this. D-Drag says, what are you doing? Get in there and save your friend. Deku says, but I'm too weak to help at all. Anyways, All Might will be here soon. D-Drag says, you just said a moment ago that heroes shouldn't hesitant at times like these, and yet here you are. You'll never become the #1 hero by doing that. Deku says, I guess you're right. He runs on and heroes try to stop him, but he's too far ahead, and D-Drag says boost. Deku launches a red blast. It hits the sludge villain, barely damaging him. The sludge villain says that all you go. Deku punches the sludge villain in the face, but his hand is stuck in the sludge. The sludge villain laughs and says you fell for it just like this other guy. Deku grins and uses a blast to push him out of the sludge villain. The sludge villain expands his arms trying to grab Deku, but he jumps in the air and thinks to himself, All Might defeat him with wind if I can do the same thing. Deku launches a punch, releasing the stored-up power in the boosted gear, making winds blowing the sludge villain away. He runs quickly to grab Bakago. D-Dragon yell reset. Deku is running with Bakago, asking D-Drag why he can't boost anymore. D-Drag says since you released all the stored-up energy, you can't boost again for a bit. Deku makes it to the crowd, and the crowd cheers when suddenly the sludge villain comes from behind, about to attack even more. The heroes and Deku get ready for this when suddenly All Might jump from the sky saying, I am here, punching the villain, sending winds that blow him away. The crowd cheers for All Might. All Might takes Bakago and says I'll take him to the police station with the sludge villain. Later in the evening, Deku is walking back to his house as All Might dashes in and says hello. All Might says thank you, I saw what you did out there, you inspired me to act. Deku says you shouldn't thank me, for you're the one who saved me and everyone else. All Might says in a couple of months in teaching at UA for Class 1A. Deku says really, I'm enrolling there too. All Might grin and says, work hard because the best of the best try to get into that school. And before I forgot, here's my personal number if you need to call me up. Deku says thank you so much. All Might says no problem and jumps away into the sunset. Deku walks home from all the chaos that happens today and is exhausted. He falls on his bed talking to D-Drag. Deku says to D-Drag, remember that promise you made a few years back? D-Drag says which one? Deku replies, the one that you said when you're ready you'll tell me more about yourself and your powers. D-Drag says I guess you're ready, then I'll give you 3 questions. D-Drag says I was a fearsome dragon known to have powerful flames that can incinerate anything, including gods, and will never go out till they burn the opponents to ashes. I was feared by the gods, devils, and fallen angels in my prime. I had enough power just from sheer force alone to destroy the world several times over. Deku says wait, so you were able to kill gods and they feared you too? I didn't know those existed. D-Drag says well, I originated from a different universe than yours where there was gods, dragons, devils, and fallen angels. I was indeed unstoppable until I ran into Albion, the White Dragon Emperor, which could withstand my flames. Because of him I stopped using my flames and compete with him, developing the ability to boost and transfer power to others. Deku asks if you were that powerful, how did you get turned into a gauntlet? D-Drag says well, I and Albion were foolish, so caught up in our fighting so much that we attacked the 3 leaders, which lead to our bodies being destroyed and our souls sealed into scared gears. Deku asks what are sacred gears? Also, if you and Albion got sealed, does that mean there's another person out there with gear too? D-Drag says yes. I've been alive for thousands and thousands of years. I've been with the strongest and weakest host. You are correct. Every host that I've been with has fought Albion and his host once or on several occasions. For some reason I feel like there isn't one in this universe, but that should not put you or me on ease. We must prepare if it ever happens. Now, scared gears were made by the original God of the Bible, who created the sacred gears as part of his system to enact miracles on earth. There are many different types of scared gears, each with their strengths and weaknesses. D-Drag says you have one more question, ask wisely. Deku says is this gauntlet the only thing you can do or is there more? D-Drag says him yes, there's one major thing you haven't unlocked, a balance breaker. Every scared gear has a balance breaker. Balance breaker are evolved forms of sacred gears using their full powers. Balance breakers were a bug in God's creations of sacred gear which can upset the balance of the world, hence getting the name balance breaker. Your balance breaker is called scale mail, which gives you dragon armor, increasing your attack, defense, abilities, and speed. It allows the user to boost without the 10-second cooldown. It's capable of repairing itself from any sort of attack. Deku asks how do I unlock? D-Drag interrupts and says that's 3 questions, now go to sleep. Deku falls asleep and his conscious ends up in his sacred gear. A couple of hours later he wakes up in a seemingly infinite white room. Deku asks where am I? D-Drag says your conscious went into your scared gear, now you're in it. He walks around running into a bunch of people sitting on stairs with brown cloths. Deku walks up close and takes a look at one. Their eyes have no light, almost like a void. A person from behind says that guy was one of weakest Red Dragon Emperors who died in battle against the White Dragon Emperor. Deku turns around seeing a woman with long white hair wearing blue and says who are you? D-Drag says partner, that's Elsha, the strongest female Red Dragon Emperor. Elsha says I usually hide, but I decided to not this time around and saw you, the newest Red Dragon Emperor. Deku asks since D-Drag won't tell me about my balance breaker more, can I ask you? D-Drag says hey, that's cheating. Elsha says sure, what question do you have? Deku asks how can I unlock my balance breaker? Elsha says usually the first time it's hard to do, but after is easier to do. It will activate when you're at a big disadvantage or by your emotions. D-Drake says yes. My powers and the balance breaker react to your emotions, usually. The first time when you active your balance breaker it's incomplete. But be careful if you do, you'll make active your Juggernaut T drive, which is very powerful but hard to control. The Juggernaut drive has killed the previous user in the past, few have mastered it. Elsha says, even though you're not from our universe, I have a gift for you that will help you a ton, but only when you master your balance breaker. The dream starts to shudder. Elsha says, well, it was fun talking to you, but looks like we must go. Deku says wait, and the dream ends. Deku wakes up and looks out. It's mooring outside. He asks D-Drake if there's any way he could train which would help him master his balance breaker once it comes around. D-Drake suggests he does tons of stamina training to break his limits to further how many times he can boost with his boosted gear and balance breaker. D-Drake says doing stamina training and physical training is a good way to help your body have more control over the balance breaker, which in turn makes it last longer. Deku is confused about where to start and calls All Might. All Might picks up the phone and says, hello All Might here. Deku is fanboying over how he's calling All Might for a while until he asks if he had any ways to increase his physical self and stamina. All Might says, yeah, I do come by the beach. Deku says okay and hangs up. D-Drake says that All Might guy must be really something. I hear you and other people always talk about him. As Deku is dressing up to head, as he says yeah, because he's the strongest and is the #1 hero that brings justice and smiles to everyone when they see him. I want to be just like him. Deku meets All Might at the beach and All Might says, I think if you move this trash off the beach it will help. Deku starts over the months cleaning the beach every day with some weightlifting, running and some other activities on the side too. The day of the UA entrance exam arrives. Deku prepares and starts heading out to the site. Deku asks D-Drake, with all this training, how many times do you think I can boost? D-Drake says, I'm not sure, but probably around 40 times. He runs into Pikago, which starts blabbing away about how he's better than him. Deku ignores this and heads to the site. D-Drake says that kid, he's your childhood friend, right? I don't see how you can be friends with someone that cocky and arrogant. Deku says yeah, but he has his good side too. Deku arrives and they put the students in separate sites. They explain their goal is to destroy robots and save people for points in a certain amount of time. Deku actives his boosted gear. They go. Deku races off while his gauntlet says boost a couple of times. Deku runs into a robot and breaks it with ease, but another robot comes from behind and Deku charges a dragon shot which completely destroys it. After saving people and destroying robots, he sees a girl stuck underneath rubble, which he lifts up the rubble and gets her out. Deku sees people running away and looks up to see a huge robot. He tells the girl to run and she does. Deku right now has boosted 26 times before the encounter with the giant robot. He jumps up and punching the robot, damaging it, but the impact of the punch makes the robot fall over and hit ground, unable to move. Time runs out and everyone clears the site and goes home. Deku waits a couple of weeks and gets a letter that he made it into UA and got the best score. The next day, Deku walks into class and runs into the girl that he saved, and she gets uncomfortably close. She said, hi, my name is Ochoko Uraraka. Thanks for saving me back there. You were doing so well out there too. Deku introduces himself and meets the rest of the class. He talks to Uraraka more, but Anazawa says in a rude voice to stop talking and sit down. D-Drake says that guy seems like a depressed douche. Anazawa stares at Deku and says, was that you that said that? If so, I'll gladly send you to the dean office. Deku, afraid of getting in major trouble, D-Drake says, I'm the one who said it. Everyone looks at Deku's arm and says it can talk. D-Drake says, what, you've never heard of a talking dragon? Look at his face, so priceless, and laughs. Anazawa has none of this and disables Deku quirk, but it doesn't work because it's a mutation quirk. Anazawa tells Deku to go sit down and tell the class that they'll be doing quirk assessment. The next day, Anazawa explains that they'll be going to the USJ, but All Might will not be there because he's late. They get on the bus and Ochoko gets close, to which makes Deku face turn red and asks, is there really a dragon in there? Drag says, of course am I dragon. If I wasn't sealed I could easily destroy the world if I wanted to. Hiroshima says, doesn't that kinda make you sound like a villain? Drag says, dragons choose to be good or evil, so I could be either if I wanted. As the sound of the bus stops, they arrive at the USJ where they meet 13, which she begins to explain the domain and why they're here. But suddenly a portal appears, which a bunch of villains. Deku actives his gear. Anazawa starts fighting a bunch of villains to protect the students. They are confused why the alarms didn't go off, but then Shota says someone's quirk must be jamming the alarms, and 13 protect the students and head to the exit. I'll hold them off. Meanwhile, All Might is with the principal and actually takes his advice, and because of this, he comes way later. Shota launches ice, taking out many of the weaker villains. Hirajiri manages to slip by the Erasure Hero and confronts 13 and the students before they retreat. He asks them where All Might is, and then Katsuki and Ijiro suddenly attack him. He evades their explosive assault and then uses his quirk to warp the class and scatter them across the various regions of the USJ facility. Deku is on a boat with Tsuyu. They try to think what to do, and then Deku, you jump and I'll launch an attack, causing a whirlpool to take out the villains. They execute the plan and Froppy jumps with Deku in her tongue. Deku powers up a dragon shot which hits the water, making an even bigger whirlpool than the original. Lydia is with 13 and the other students. 13 tells Lydia to escape the USJ and get help. Lydia does so usefully with the help of his classmates. Tamura knows their plan is ruined if the pro heroes show up. Tsuyu watch Anazawa gets his elbows decayed by Tamura and Deku feels like he should help and jumps in. Tsuyu says, "Stop, you're going to get yourself killed." Deku tries to punch the Nomu, but little to no effect. The Nomu launches several punches, badly injuring Deku. Deku on the ground bleeding a bit. He tells Drag that he needs more power. If he doesn't, people will die. Tamura commands the Nomu to get Deku. Drag says, "Yes, it does seem you're in a disadvantage right now, so I'll let you get a glimpse of my true power. To activate your balance breaker, you must think about what you desire the most so it will react to my gear since I respond to the user desire and emotions." Deku thinks about his desire of being the #1 hero and being the protector of the people. Nomu is about to land the finishing blow when suddenly Deku uses his dragon shot to push himself sideways and gets up. D-Drag says, "Perfect partner, now unleash those desires and emotions." Deku does as so, and dark red aura starts appearing around him. It glows brighter and brighter until the point it's a straight beam that can be seen from all over the USJ. Shoto says it almost feels like his power is increasing by the second. D-Drag says, "Welsh Dragon be a lance breaker." The beam fades and Deku is covered in red dragon armor with 2 green gems in the middle of both of his hands, feet, and 1 big one on his chest. He has a red tail with a helmet with green eyes and 2 yellow spikes coming from the sides of his mouth and some coming from his arms, legs, and shoulder. Deku asks D-Drag, "How long will this form last and what can it do?" He says, "Because of your training you can maintain the incomplete form for up to 5 minutes. All your physical abilities are enchanted and you're now able to boost without the 10-second grace period." Tamura is taken back by this and tells the Nomu to attack again. Deku powers up and charges at the Nomu, slamming the Nomu, but yet again no effect. The Nomu punches him back, breaking his chest armor, but it repairs by itself. Deku powers up even more still in the struggle, with the Nomu starting to get a tiny bit of the upper hand, which moves the Nomu couple inches away. Everyone and even the villains are just stunned by watching this fight. Bakago says, "What power? How can he have this much boost? Boost, 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 booster, damn bastard." Deku leaps back as the Nomu charges back. He charges a dragon shot and launches the attack, which goes straight through the Nomu, flying towards the back of the USJ. Exploding red light appear with debris from the attack. It destroys the other side, the USJ, completely with a large crater. Tamura is scared by this, but gains back his demeanor. The smoke clears up and the Nomu is regeneration so fast that Deku can't do anything. Deku and Drag are surprised it can regen. They get ready as the Nomu is about to attack. They exchange fist back and forward, similar to All Might versus the Nomu. Deku lands a couple of good blows but starts to be overpowered and is losing stamina. He gets hit by 1 attack, then gets jabbed by more and more until the final blow knocking him away. He lands on his feet but then falls to his knees exhausted. He asks D-Drag what's happening. D-Drag says, "You've hit your boosting limit and the failsafe is about to take away your balance breaker if you keep it up. Anyways, your time is about to run out. You will lose your boost multipliers unless you give it to someone, but more importantly, look out." Deku is about to get slammed by the Nomu until All Might arrives, dispatching multiple villains on the way, and grabs Deku before anyone can see. All ask Deku if he's alright. Deku says, "Yes, I'm going to transfer my powers to you, which will make you stronger so you won't struggle against the Nomu." All Might says, "You can do that. Wow, that's kinda like my core." D-Drag says, "Enough of the chit-chat. This power will last for a short amount of time to use it to the best." All Might says, "Alright," and Deku gives his powers to All Might. Deku goes out of his balance breaker on the floor. He tells All Might, "Go get that Nomu," which All Might smiles. All Might of glowing green and red energy around him. He says, "Thanks for the pass, young Meteora. I feel amazing, almost like I'm in my prime. Now, let's finish this quick." All Might runs so fast that the Nomu can't even see him. He punches the Nomu, sending back, and runs up to it saying, "Hey villain, have you ever heard these words? Go beyond plus a D Ultra," sending the Nomu flying and completely gets disintegrated, destroying almost all of the USJ, sending shockwaves and dust which blows everyone back, and the ground shakes like an earthquake for miles. Tamura takes this time to retreat but gets his ear shot off by Snipe, and Snipe also shoots 2 bullets at the villain's earphone jack. Momo and Denkai were fighting. The dust clears and Deku's power that he gave to All Might fades away. Stands smiling, knowing that the teachers are here. The teachers get the students and Anazawa all to safety. All Might forgets about the main goal, too busy on the students, and sees Tamura leaves and says this isn't over yet and fades away into the portal. Later, Tamura runs into All for One and explains what happened. All for One says it's one loss, no biggie, but We'll get them next time. Tamura falls asleep thinking about what happened today and his hatred towards that boy and All Might. He awakens in a white dimension. A bright white object appears. Tamura asks meanly, "Who are you? What do you want?" The white object says, "I am the one you need to defeat, that boy you're thinking about." Tamura says, "Are you part of the heroes or something, using your quirk to fool with me?" The white object says, "No. I come from a realm where the gods, demons, devils, the creator of the Bible, and even Satan. I will let you my power to your desires. You seem like a strong person." Tamura says, "What's the catch, and who the hell are you? Tell me now." The white object says, "I am the White Dragon Emperor, the rival of the Welsh dragon or that boy. There is no catch to this at all. I'm trying to help you with your goal." Tamura agrees, and the dream fades away. He wakes up to a white gauntlet on his hand. The gauntlet says, "I am Albion. Nice to meet you, partner." Tamura asks, "So, are you a quirk or not?" Albion says, "I have no idea what that is, but I'm not one." Tamura doesn't believe him and asks One for All to try to take his quirk away. All for One tries, but he can't. All for One is shocked by this. He never has been not able to take quirk. All for One asks Tamura and Albion, "Interesting, explain how you got this power, and what are your powers, and also what are your Abelites?" They start talking to one another, giving details about their worlds and how their power work. After a long chat, All for One says, "Well, this is one of kind of power, surely be enough to take down All Might." Writer note: every time you hear boost when Deku uses his boosted gear, it has been 10 seconds. After a couple of days after the USJ attack, Anazawa announces the a sports festival and how this will help them get offers to intern with pro heroes. A couple of days later, the first event of the U Sports Festivals happens. The 11 classes have to race across various obstacles. They all start out at the Robo Inferno, which there's a ton of robots they have to deal with while making it to the fall. Deku powers up his gear and Todoroki freezes the ground to keep a large portion of the race held back. Deku is able to get out of the ice and starts to run, and every 10 seconds he gets twice as fast. He encounters a robot, powers up a dragon shot, destroying the robot, and runs even faster than before. He easily passes up everyone and heads towards the swinging area. He leaps from pillar to pillar easily and reaches the landmine area with no one behind him. He runs so fast that he doesn't even trigger the landmines and gets the first place, when slowly after Todoroki gets second and Bakago in third. As the final students finish, they announce the next event, the Cavalry Battle. Midnight explains the game. The remaining students must form teams with a maximum of 4 people and then go in a horse configuration. The objective was to earn points by swiping other teams' headbands while protecting their own. The value of a team's headband would be the sum of the points each person on the team received based on their performance in the previous competition. The person who ranked last would be worth 5 points, and each rank above that would be worth 5 more points than the previous one, with the exception of first place, which was worth 10 million points. The one to wear the headband must be the rider, and they were not allowed to wear it below their neck. If the team lose their headband or crumble as a horse configuration, they would still not be eliminated. Participants were allowed to use their quirks, but should they attack with the malicious intention of harming another participant, they will be forced out of the game. The top 4 will go on to the final matches. A lot of people start asking Deku to be on their team, but he rejects and goes with Ochoko, which then Meihatsune joins too because her invention could be useful. Then Fumikage asks to join and Deku agrees because his quirk is useful. They all get in their teams and everyone goes for Deku. Deku group knew this would happen and are prepared for this, stealing multiple headbands without loses their own. Deku's group comes in first, Todoroki group in second, Bakago's group in third, and Shinso's group in fourth. Present Mike yells the first matchup, Shinso versus Izuku Midoriya. Midoriya and Shinso get to the arena and Deku actives his gear. Shinos ask for Deku's name. D-Drake says, "I'm the Welsh dragon." He takes this and tries to mind control him, thinking it works. He commands him to attack Deku, but it doesn't work. Deku asks why isn't he doing it. D-Drake says to Shinso, "Mind control doesn't work on a soul of a dragon." He tells Deku not to talk to him because of that's how he actives it. D-Drake says, "Haha, you really think that would work against a dragon like me? Show him how's it down, partner." Shinso is taken back by his quirk not working and that his quirk can talk and is a dragon. Deku nods his head and speed blitzes Shinso, knocking him out with one punch. Between the round of Ochoko versus Bakago, Todoroki runs into Deku and says, "You seem like a strong opponent, I must defeat you," and walks off. Deku after runs into Endeavor and he tells him about Todoroki not using his fire side. D-Drake says, "Foolish kid, he had something special that rare but doesn't use it, truly not a warrior or even a hero. You should try making him use it." Deku says, "Okay, I will, but I don't think I'll win with the gear alone. Can I use scale mail again?" D-Drag says yes, but you are only able to hold it for up to 5 minutes currently, but It's not perfected, so there is some flaws, be careful. Present Mike announces the next in the quarterfinals matchup, Todoroki versus Izuku Meteora. Deku actives his boosted gear. The Todoroki launches multiple ice attack. Deku is barely able to dodge it. Boost. Boost. Todoroki keeps the ice spam up, but Deku is strong enough now to break the ice and land blows on Todoroki, and Todoroki says, "Why aren't you using your transformation?" Deku says, "Because it's not worth using that if you're not going to use your fire side. You have this power, it's yours, now use it." Todoroki smiles and says, "Ever since the USJ I dreamed of fighting you with that power, and if I need to use my fire side I will." "You are right, it's my powers, I should use it." Todoroki unleashes his flames and launches it at Deku. Deku takes the flames head on. His skin is kinda hot, but not burnt by any means. D-Drag says, "Those are some worthy flames, I could feel it just from the heat. Now I'll show you my flames, do it, partner." Deku says, "Yeah." Deku gets surrounded by red energy and the whole arena is red. Bakago is in the stand saying, "So much power. How can he have this much?" Momo says, "Yeah, it almost feels like he's getting stronger and stronger by the second." Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Todoroki is amazed by this and Deku charges up a Dragon Shot Boost. Boost. He fires it at Todoroki, which he dodges. It flies towards the stand, but luckily someone quirk in the spectator crowd can deflect any projectile and launches it into the air. It explodes in the air, covering the whole arena in red light and shaking the arena like an earthquake. Present Mike is shocked and Aizawa asks what happened. Present Mike yells, "Whoa, the sky looks weird now, did he warp a dimension?" And Aizawa says, "No, that's impossible, your eyes must be fooling you." D-Drag says, "You can't be launching dragon shots like that in an area like this, you could kill people." Todoroki launches multiple ice and fire attacks. Deku flies and maneuvers around them all. Boost. Todoroki knows he's too fast for him, so he makes a huge ice wall hoping that would stop him, but Deku breaks through it and punches Todoroki, launching him out of the ring, making a crater into the wall. Present Mike says Deku is the winner. The medics take Todoroki away to see if he's okay. Deku walks off the stage drained, wondering what's happening. D-Drag says, "Remember when what I told you, this power, in general, makes you very drained and worn out. Because of that, you only have 3 minutes and 30 seconds left to use up, but just know it will be weaker than the last transformation." Deku says so. "If I finish quickly, I can save my stamina and not be drained." Drag says correct. After the next few matchups, it's Deku versus Lydia, which for the semi-final round, Deku goes straight into his balance breaker and boosts 20 times to overpower Lydia and his speed with ease, which works even with Lydia wrecked world boost. He's still no match and gets knocked out of the arena. D-Drag tells him, "Good job, you now have only 1 minute and 45 seconds. Deku says, "What, I barely used it." D-Drag says, "Since you're getting so many fights back to back, your stamina is decreasing, which makes the timer shorter." The final round between Bakago and Deku begins. Deku knows he doesn't have a lot of time and is getting exhausted. He powers up to his gear again. He boost to finish this quickly before his timer runs out, so he charges a Bakago boost. Bakago uses an explosion to jump into the air, dodging his strike and come from behind for a large explosion, causing smoke to show everywhere. Deku uses this and gets behind Bakago boost, and kicks him. Bakago says impossible, and gets knocked out of the ring. Present Mike says Deku is the winner, which makes him the winner of the UA Sports Festival. Everyone starts to cheer Izuku. All Might jump from the sky and tells the crowd to say it with him, "Go plus Ultra." They all do and start cheering and clapping. All Might puts the medal on Deku. All Might says, "Your quirk power is just amusing. I can see you being the #1 hero soon. Keep training, but you seem exhausted, you should get some rest." All Might says, "Give it up for Izuku, the winner of the sports festival," which the crowd cheers for him. All Might walks to the second place stand where Bakago is not chained up but is still being a sore loser. All Might says, "Your quirk is good and all, but you need to show more sportsmanship and a better attitude if you want to become a hero." Bakago doesn't say anything and just frowns. All Might goes up to Funkage and says, "Even with all these powers the other two has shown, I believe your quirk will be very useful for stealth missions." Funkage says thank you to All Might. Tamura is watching this on TV audibly and says, "So it seems like the Red Dragon Emperor can use his balance breaker. We will need to train a lot more if you truly want to win." Tamura laughs and says, "You're right." Later that night, Deku is talking to D-Drag. Deku thanks him for all the help and support. Drag just says, "Don't mention it. After all, I'm just your tool for your own deeds." Deku says, "No. I don't think you're my tool, I think of you as a friend." D-Drag is trying to hide his joy from that. Drag says, "Partner, I got something to tell you. The White Dragon Emperor has unrisen in your world." Deku says, "What, I thought you said there were none." "Even so. How do you even know, and do you know who it is?" Drag says, "That was way earlier, but This happened just recently. I felt him being unleashed, and no I don't. Deku asks, do we really have to fight him? Drag says, yes you will. It is the enviable future. There has been no emperor in history that hasn't fought the White Dragon Emperor at least once, even the friendliest of them. It's almost like it's fate. Deku says, well, internships with pro heroes are tomorrow, and we can use that to get stronger so I can prepare for it. Next day, as Deku is walking to class, Drag says, you know, it's kinda weird you have to go to a school to become a hero. The heroes we run into don't even follow the random crap you learn here. Deku takes a seat and Anazawa walks into the room saying, you'll be deciding hero names with Midnight. Deku names himself the Heavenly Dragon. Midnight says, very nice and fancy. Deku goes back to his seat. Drag says, thank you for choosing a name that won't give me depression. Unlike the other host before you, everyone choose the same name as in the anime, but then Bakago walks up and show the board saying King Explosion Murder. D-Drag laughs and says, what kind of name is that? Deku says Drag. D-Drag says, sorry, couldn't help it. Bakago gets pissed off and says, you want a piece of me, scrap metal? Drag says, sure. But it will be just like yesterday. Midnight says that's enough and send Bakago to sit down and think of another name. Anazawa walks back in and says, thank you, Midnight Nos, we will be choosing your internships. Anazawa shows the chart of the offers with Deku and Todoroki with the most. Anazawa says, you got by tomorrow to choose. Class to dismiss. Deku walks down the hall with Lydia and Ochoko when All Might dash in and says, young Midoriya, care to have lunch with me? Deku agrees and heads off with All Might. They sit down and All Might says, hey, Drag, you sound just like me for some reason. Drag says maybe it's because we both have the same English voice actors. They all say nah and laugh it off as a joke. All Might says, Gran Torino asked me he's free to take in someone for help. I would have originally chosen my successor, but he isn't here at the moment, so I'm choosing you. Deku says, I'll take to deal, but what do you mean by a successor? All Might say, I will tell you since I trust you, but do not tell this to anyone because that will endanger them and even the world. Are you able to handle this? Deku says, of course. All Might says, long ago, a man with a quirk that could steal other quirks and give them away forcibly gave his seemingly quirkless little brother a quirk that allowed him to stockpile power within his body. However, unknown to them, the little brother already had a quirk with no effect other than that it could be transferred to others. The little brother's quirk and the quirk given to him by his older brother merged into one and became one for all. The little brother somehow discovered this. He had a strong sense of justice and he tried to defeat All for One, but given the huge difference in their abilities, the brother failed. The little brother decided to entrust the quirk to future generations of heroes, hoping that they would cultivate One for All in one day put a stop to All for One. Few knew the truth about One for All. The quirk was passed down through 9 generations, growing stronger with the passage of time. Currently, One for All is one of the most powerful quirks in existence. Deku says it's kinda like how D-Drag origins and the past users of him too. All Might curious and ask D-Drag to explain his origins. Drag obliges because he told him and says, first off, I'm not a quirk, I come from a different universe from you all. In the past, I fought against my arch rival, the Vanishing Dragon, Albion, in a battle that was interrupted by the angels, devils, and fallen angels who were at war during the time. In anger, both of us dragons attacked the leaders of the 3 factions, which led to our bodies being destroyed and their souls being sealed into 2 separate sacred gears, with me moving into the boosted gear, a sacred gear that eventually became one of the 13 varieties of Longinus. I've been wielded by many users just like your quirk. All Might says, wow, well then I'll give you the address to Gran Torino for your internship tomorrow. Next day he arrives at Gran Torino's house and sees an old man on the floor with blood on the floor. Deku and D-Drag think he's dead, but the old man gets up and says, oops, I spilled my tomato juice. All Might says, I would have a student come over. What's your name again? Oh right, Midori. Gran Torino asks to see Deku's quirk. Deku says it isn't a quirk, but whatever. He says, don't be silly. It has to be. The D-Drag says, I'm not a quirk, I'm a weapon called a sacred gear. Gran Torino starts to look at the shiny red gauntlet. Gran Torino says, oh right, you were that kid with the red transformation thing. I was watching the battles closely, it looked like you were very low on stamina. May that be a drawback of your power? D-Drag says, yes, my powers are very powerful, but it requires an immense amount of training and stamina usage to maintain. Gran Torino says, I see, we need to increase your stamina. How about a 10 kilometers run every day with a little bit of help with your quirk? That sound good to you, D-Drag? Also forgot to mention every day we add 1 kilometer. Deku says, what, 12 kilometers a day? D-Drag says, yeah, that'd be good. And Deku, the previous user, had to run away from the Blaze Meteor Dragon's flames, a dragon that switch was a Dragon King and an ultimate class devil. For his training, you should be happy. Gran Torino says, HMPH, now get going. If you haven't watched the previous parts of this What If, please do. Links in the description below. Drag tells Deku that the White Dragon Emperor has risen. The next day Deku heads off to school. They decided hero names with Midnight, and Deku calls himself the H-Evenly Dragon. Anazawa then shows class 1 how many internships they got in total. Todoroki and Deku get the most, and everyone has to choose by tomorrow. Deku gets an offer for All Might train with his old teacher, which Deku obliges to do. Deku meets Gran Torino and tells him how his power works from this. Gran Torino decides that Deku does a 10 kilometers run every day, with every day gaining 1 extra km while having the balance breaker on. Deku day by day he struggles to hold his balance breaker, even pushing his limits and his own body, but for most of it, he has to use his gauntlet. Deku finishes day 1 exhausted in bed and asks D-Drag how did he do today, is there anything I need to improve on? D-Drag says you look tired, sleep, you'll need it, and you just figured this out on your own. The number 1 hero or the next Red Dragon Emperor got to sometimes figure things out themselves. Deku thinks of ways of fixing his problem and goes to sleep. The next mornings Deku runs and runs with his balance breaker, trying his hardest using several different techniques, but all failed but one. Days after days of running and practicing his balance breaker, Deku finally got the hang of his balance breaker. Drag notices this and is impressed but doesn't say anything, but despite that, he is very proud of him. The days go by and Gran Torino knows he's ready for the next level just by observing him. Gran Torino says to Deku, we're going to Hasu City later in the night to fight street villains. Deku says, villains? You think I'm too weak for that? Gran Torino says you're scared of street villains. If you want to be the number 1 hero, you can't be scared of that. Deku remembers Lydia about what he told him prior before Deku left about the Stain Killer and his brother. Deku says yeah, but the Stain Killer is on the loose. What happens if we run into him? Gran Torino says if we run into him we'll take care of it. Just stay out in the open or near heroes because the Stain Killer usually likes to attack people alone. Deku uses his phone to see how everyone is doing, but his phone is gone. He looks and finally asks D-Drag if he has seen it. D-Drag says it's part of you now. Apparently you accidentally took the power of it and now you can use the powers of a cell phone in your boosted gear. Deku says how is that even possible? Is there something you're not telling me about? D-Drag says boosted gear has several abilities and one of them is to store some weapons and power base items within it and allowing the user to wield their capabilities. They go on the train and Nomu rams through the train cart, breaking it with a pro hero in his hand. The Nomu throws the hero. Deku catches him and Gran Torino says stay back everyone, and kicks to Nomu, sending him flying towards a wall with him. Deku makes sure the hero and everyone else is okay and calls for help to come to the train. When the call is finished he runs off, knowing that if there's a Nomu that could mean the villains from the USJ might be lurking around. Deku realizes Lydia is probably out there somewhere and might be in trouble. He hears a scream for help and quickly runs over to it. He sees the Stain Killer on top of Lydia. Deku launches a dragon shot. The Stain Killer jumps out of the way and looks towards where it came from. Deku appears in front of him and smashes him in the stomach with the gauntlet, sending him flying into the wall. Lydia says watch out, his quirk makes you unable to move when he licks your blood. Drake yells Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Deku transforms into his balance breaker, asking how much time do I have? Drake. D-Drag says from the training you did, you increase your timer substantially, 25 minutes going all out and 35 suppressed. You are on great track, keep increasing your limits and powers to make you last even longer. Deku looks and realizes that Native and Lydia are badly injured and he's the only one here. Deku sends a GPS signal through his balance breaker of his location to see if any other students were nearby to help. The Stain Killer gets out of the rubble to ask for Deku's name. Deku says it's the Heavenly Dragon. The Stain Killer says cool name, but you're all show, let me break that armor of yours. Stain Killer throws multiple small swords. Deku dodges all of them except for one which cuts the right side of his waist. D-Drag says partner watch out, he uses swords, your weakness. I'll try to repair your armor, but focus at the fight at hand. Deku says wait for Wa. Stain Killer rushes at Deku with his swords and Deku barely dodging. Stain attacks again, but Deku flies up into the air so the Stain Killer can't reach him. Deku asks why was he able to cut through my armor so easily? Drag says remember what I said earlier, since you wield me you gain the weaknesses of a dragon, which are swords, curses, and dragon slayer magic, but most importantly look up. The Stain Killer wall jumps up to Deku and takes a swing. Deku dodges it once again. The Stain Killer comes for a surprise kick which Deku blocks with his arms and gets sent flying into the ground. The Stain Killer comes from the sky with a blade coming down straight to his chest. He turns away and dodges the strike, but Stain Killer strikes again. Deku fires off a dragon shot, pushing him away from the Stain Killer and towards Lydia. The Stain Killer looks like you're not all for show, you're durable, fast, and quick thinking. Heavenly Dragon Turley worthy. The Stain Killer runs at high speeds and gets up close to Deku, but Deku grabs his sword and grins. The sword fades. The Stain Killer jumps back, grabbing the other swords. He is shocked on what just happened. Deku grins and throws up his right hands and summons the sword. D-Drake yells blade. Another side note, whenever blade is announced that means he has activated his sword. It might be annoying with all the callouts, but that's just how D-Drag rolls. His right arm claws get replaced with a blade. Deku fights the Stain Killer with this, but is struggling because the Stain Killer is way more experienced in sword fights than he is. They get in a clash with both swords struggling to move one another. Deku says it's about time I went full out. Deku's aura starts to get bigger. Boost, 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 boost. He breaks the Stain Killer's sword and kicks him, sending him flying. Drag shouts explosion and Deku releases all of the boosted gear power. Stain lands on the ground, barely able to stand. He tries to use his Bloodlust Bind as a last-ditch attempt, but Deku overpowers it with his sheer will and hits the Stain Killer in the stomach, sending flying towards a wall, being knocked out. D-Drag says good job, partner, but you're now unable to boost for a while since you realize all of the boosted gear power. Deku runs over to Lydia to see if he's okay, and Todoroki arrives later with pro heroes. They take care of Lydia and ask Deku if he defeated the Stain Killer. Deku says yes. The Heavenly Dragon defeated the Stain Killer. Later, Deku and Todoroki go to visit Lydia in his bed when Kenji Tsuragami walks in and says, Well, Izuku Midoriya, you made it to the headlines of the news. Deku says, what really? Kenji Tsuragami turns on the television to the news channel covering it. A reporter lady says this hero called the Heavenly Dragon defeated the Stain Killer, saving 2 injured people who were behind that mask. People believe it might be a kid from Class 1 called Izuku Midoriya, since the hero in the photo looks similar to this. They show footage of the UA Sports Festival with Izuku and his balance breaker. They start asking people how might this quirk work. Kenji Tsuragami says, I do applaud you for doing something that saved more than 2 lives and making a name for yourself, but you shouldn't have used your quirk without permission. Deku says, how is that fair? This isn't even a quirk, so therefore I don't need permission to use it. Kenji Tsuragami says impossible to have powers without a quirk. Deku denies this claim and asks to test him for a quirk. Kenji Tsuragami obliges and gets the test ready. Later, the doctor walks in and says he is quirkless, but somehow has a power which is something that he has never seen before and should be reported as a new discovery. Tamura back at base camp, mad about how the Stain Killer got defeated by his enemy, but Albion calms him down, saying that you underestimate the power of dragons. Judging how fast he's growing, he's going to be a threat and not even the best villains could stop him. The only way I see you beating him is you keep training to defeat the Red Dragon Emperor. Tamura says, ugh, I hate training, why the hell should I listen to you? Albion says, look, if you want to charge and they're being unprepared, you will lose to the Red Dragon Emperor and get arrested. I lived for many years than you have. I've seen how people are too arrogant to miss their failures. Tamura says, yeah, you're right, back to training, and grins. They go on the train to Hasu City and Nomu rams through the train cart, breaking it with a pro hero in his hand. Deku catches him and Gran Torino kicks to Nomu, sending him flying towards a wall with him. Deku runs off knowing that there's trouble. He hears a scream and heads towards it. He follows the noise, finding the hero killer on top of Lydia body, about to go for the final blow before Deku stopped the hero killer with a dragon shot. A vicious battle between Deku and Stain erupts. Stain tries to use his sword on Deku, but Deku Gauntlet absorbs the sword, allowing him to use it against Stain. Deku and Stain get into an epic sword fight until Deku finally starts boosting and launches Stain away. As a last-ditch attempt, Stain tried to use his Bloodlust Bind technique to freeze him, but it didn't work on Deku and the Stain Killer got knocked out. Deku, after visiting his injured friend, and sees himself on the news about what he did. Next day, Class 1 comes back from their internships. They congratulate Deku on being on the news and stopping the hero killer. Todoroki isn't surprised because he knows Deku power is powerful, but smirks because of the news. Bakago just ignores, but then All Might walks in and says, good morning. Students, today we will be doing a training exercise to test how much you learned from your internship and to prepare you for your final exams. Get into your hero costumes and meet me on the field. They all gather on the field and All Might explains that they'll have to go through this obstacle to try to save him. All Might says, Izuku, Oijiro, Shiro, and Ashido, get to your assigned spots in the obstacle course and get ready everyone else to go to the room over there to watch this on full screen. Denkai asks the rest of Class 1, who do you think will win, guys? Todoroki, Tenya, Denkai, and Ochoko say Deku is going to win. Momo and Gyro think that Ajiro will win. All Might announces to them all, once you hear the buzzer you may go. 3, 2, 1. The buzzer goes off and everyone heads off. So far Ajiro is in the lead until he gets passed up by Deku flying in his scale mail. Deku gets to All Might first and All Might says, wow, what power, I felt your speed and power just from here, amazing. Oijiro comes in second, Shiro in third, and Ashido in fourth. All Might says, great work everyone. Next group. All Might says, great work, your final exams will be in a day and I believe it's those robots you guys fought from the entrance exams. Later they finish up the written exams, then Anazawa walks in and says, alright, final exams are today, dress into your hero costumes and follow me. They all gather, but suddenly Mr. Principal jumps out of Shota's scarf and reveals to Class 1 that they will not be having a battle simulation against robots for their test exercise. Mr. Principal explains that the recent surge of villains has caused the school to increase the quality of their training methods in order to increase the students' battle experience. Mr. Principal says that from now on, UA students will be having battle simulations similar to real-life battles. Class 1 will be the first students who will have real-life battle simulations. Mr. Principal reveals that Class 1A's test exercise will be forming pairs and facing one of UA's teachers in combat. Shocking Class 1A. Mr. Principal states that Class 1A's pairs and the teachers they will fight have been decided. Luckily, Deku made sure he took the impact instead of Bakago. He puts aside Bakago's unconscious body and leaves it away from harm. Deku gets up with his armor broken and shattered. Deku says running won't work unless he's truly down for good. His speed and power is incredible even with the handicap. D-Drag says yes. Indeed, I can see why the world looks up to him, but that doesn't matter. You must win this battle if you ever want to reach that level. Deku armor repairs itself and All Might shout from afar, seems like your plan didn't work. What will you do now, hero? Deku shouts back, I'll take you head on, that's what. Deku charges forward towards All Might. All Might rush in at his fastest speed he can go. Everyone is scared because if two forces like that hit together, who knows what will happen. Their fist collides, causing the ground around them to break. All Might is winning the struggle until Deku starts to boost more. Boost, 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 and so on. All Might is getting pushed back, the ground still breaking and buildings crumbling. All Might say, you are putting up a good effort, but can you beat me at my maximum power? No, beyond that. All Might hit Deku with his left arm, then hits him with his right arm, sending him back. Deku chest piece is broken, but it repairs slower than last time. Deku asks D-Drag what's going on, why is the armor repair slower than usual? D-Drag says that clash and the 3 hits you took badly damaged the armor and decreased your stamina, making the armor repair slower. You originally had 35 minutes of this, but just from those 3 attacks you only have 5 minutes, be careful. Deku charges up a dragon shot, sending it towards the ground, making dirt flying everywhere and smoke. All Might says a surprise attack, ho, that won't work on me. He turns around and punches Deku with multiple fast punches from the behind. His stamina is slowly draining. All Might is about to hit with the final blow, but Deku focuses all his power into defense. All Might lands the final blow, sending him flying into a van, knocking him onto the ground. D-Drag says good move with putting all your power into defense to block the attack that time. If you didn't, you would have lost for sure, but you can't maintain your armor anymore. You will keep the effects and power from it though. Deku says wait, no. I'm nothing without that suit. That's the reason why I even got this far throughout my battles. The armor fades away with red sparkles going up into the air. Everyone wonders if it's over for the two. Todoroki says, man, I wanted them to win, especially Deku, but it is the #1 hero they are going against. Ochako says no. He isn't the type of person that would give up that easily. He fights and never gives up. I just know he will be able to win. Lydia says yeah. She's right, Deku ain't the type of guy to do that, but even then All Might injures him so much his armor faded away. All Might stands and waits, knowing he will get up soon. All Might tells the teachers to not stop the match and they agree to grudging. D-Drag says, I knew this would be a problem along the way, but remember, if you want it to be the #1 hero, you should not always rely on that power, and even then, as you said a while ago, to be a hero never gives up no matter what. You are supposed to save people and make them smile. That suit is just a shell, your real self is in when you're without it. Deku hears Ochako and his friends' voices cheering him on. This with drag speech empowers him. He says, yeah, you're right, everyone is on my side. He gets up and everyone is glad he got back up. Ochako says, I knew it, Deku could do it. Mono says, you seem often found on Deku, could it be that you like him? Her face grows red and says, no, why would I? All Might grind and laughs, you finally decided to get up. Now let's have a real battle. Bakago finally wakes up and realizes he's still here. He looks around seeing what is happening, but he can't tell. He gets up and walks around the city because he knows the fight is still going, or else he wouldn't be here. Deku powers up, boost, 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 boost. Drag the yells explosion. A big burst of energy from the gear is released and he charges at All Might at high speeds. Bakago feels strong power, so he follows it, which leads him to All Might. He hides to make sure he doesn't see him. Bakago wonders where Deku is until he hears a loud bang with Deku fist and All Might fist colliding. All strikes again with his left arm, but Deku quickly uses his gauntlet and fires a dragon shot, launching him above All Might and behind him. Deku then goes for a hit from behind, which lands, but not as much as an effect when he was in his scale mail. All Might charge up a punch, sending high pressure winds. Deku blocks it with his gauntlet, sending him into a building. Deku gets up, not sure what to do, while All Might approach, saying, well, you tried time to end your exam. Bakago comes from behind us, says, hey bastard, you forgot about me. You're going to pay for knocking me out like that. All Might turns around and says to himself, crap, I completely forgot about Bakugo. Bakugo launches a large explosion point blank at All Might, causing a huge dust cloud. Deku uses this and gets with Bakugo. He thanks him and says, we got to get to the existing fast, there's no way we can beat him and my temporary power boost is about to run out. Bakugo says fine and he uses his explosion heading to exist. Deku uses his remaining power boost to run to the gate. The smoke clears and All Might is coughing blood a little bit because of the explosion and the dust. He realizes they're heading to the gate but then knows he can't do anything because of his time limit. All Might say to himself, if I just have kept an eye on Bakugo I would have easily won, but well done Midoriya, you held yourself against me even while suppressed, giving enough time for Bakugo to wake up. Deku and Bakugo get to the gate and pass the final exams. They walk into the room where the rest of the class was watching and they all congratulate him. Zero says, wow, you handle yourself back there amazing. Todoroki says, even when knocked out you still managed to do something. Bakugo gets up close and yells at Todoroki, shut up, I'll blow your face off. Everyone laughs at this. Ochako goes up to Deku and says, I knew it, you could do it. I love you, and kisses him on the cheek with a hug. Deku's face turns red. He doesn't feel comfortable because he also has a crush on her. Minda says, damn it, why does Izuku always get the girls? Earphone Jack says, shut up you dumb grape. Ashido says, I guess Momo assumption was right. Class wanna plan a trip to the mall to shop for stuff for training camp, which goes smoothly this time because Tamura doesn't go there. Deku also goes with Ochako because Ochako wanted him to go with her. Deku doesn't reject as in the anime and everything happens as the same. Deku is at home and his mom said that the school will be closed for a month because for a break, but they also said to not slack off because you have a training camp soon. The League of Villains get this news and then plan their same attack for the next upcoming weeks. Tamura says to everyone, the Red Dragon Emperor will be there, I want him for myself, no one harms him. Twice says, why boss, if he's just a threat we should finish him off. Tamura says, I want him for myself, that's final. While this time Tamura does some heavy mental and physical training to gain control over his special technique. Meanwhile back at Deku's house, Drag says to him, Deku, you need to put your mind into the scared gear again. They have something they want you to do, it will help you. Deku then enters himself into his boosted gear. He appears in a white endless plane. Deku looks around to see anyone but he doesn't. Deku then tells D-Drag, are you sure they are here? He then hears something coming from behind and quickly transforms into his balance breaker. He turns around blocking a punch. The person jumps back and says, well done perfectly. Deku says, oh, it's you, Elsha. What's up? Well, we decided the training they are giving you at U isn't good enough for you, so we'll train you ourselves. You will be training with the strongest red dragon male emperor in history. A tall dude with a white beard, bloodshot red eyes, and a red robe appears behind her. Alicia says, this is Belzard, he will be training you for the next month. Blizzard says, I heard a lot about you, but now it's time to train. First off, you will have to survive the flames from the ultimate class devil dragon lord named Omavros Dracos. Next, you will be lifting metals from our world that weighs 500 pounds each. Finally, your last challenge to see if your training paid off is to try to take this key away from me. We will be doing this 6 hours a day, 2 hours of surviving the dragon, 2 hours of lifting, 3 hours of rest, and 2 hours of me. Deku says, wait, 9 hours, this is too much and too hard. Do I even got anything? If I do it, how will this affect me if my mind is the only thing in here? Belzarf says, this is the training necessary if you want to beat the White Dragon Emperors. I have a vision that you'll soon face him. Too hard, you got it easy. I had to survive against a legendary Devil King dragon called Fritra. He could wipe out worlds if he wanted. You'll also be getting 2 special items once you're able to take the key away from me. Secondly, it will give you great powers and more control over your powers. It will affect you physically and mentally because your body does get affected by this since it's kinda in here too. This will happen at 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday to Friday. Not sad because we have lives too. Not either Sunday because we have to deal with the god of the Bible or the guy who made scared gears. Alicia says, cheer up, you still have 16 hours to yourself anyways. Belzarf said, we'll start now, and summons Omavros Dracos, a big dynamic switch. He starts to attack Deku. Deku sees this and goes into his boosted gear, barely dodging attacks of Fritra's flame. Omavros Dracos says, you better keep running or I'll toast you. Deku somehow manages to live Fritra's flame, but then Belzard says you'll have to deal with 3x that fire rate every day. Next up is the lifting, which Deku has to lift 100,000 pounds. Deku tries to lift it, but he can't. Drag says, you fool, just boost a ton so you're able to lift it. Belzard says, correct Drag, but when you lift that 1,000 pounds it will double and keep on doubling until you can hold it anymore. This will push your boosting and physical strength overall to a new height. Deku goes into his balance breaker, starts boosted, and after 4 boosts he can lift it. Then it starts becoming heavier, so he has to boost more to keep it up. He reaches his limit of 50,000 pounds when boosted. After the 3-hour break, He goes back and Belzerd meet him and says, "Now for your final task, if you can get this key from my hand, you'll pass your training. You can come at me anyway and you have 2 hours to do so. We'll be doing this at the end of the training session." Deku says that should be easy and charges in for the key straight away, but Belzerd easily dodges swiftly and then taps Deku on the neck with one finger, sending him into the ground. Blizzard says, "Is that all you got? You'll never become whatever that #1 hero is or defeat the White Dragon like that." Deku gets up ready for round 2 and Blizzard says, "Looks like you're ready this time, now come at me." Meanwhile, throughout the weeks of training Deku is doing, Tamura has been fighting the 7th legendary Dragon King called Ladon for his training, with the help of the 3rd strongest White Dragon female called Dracana helping him throughout his training. Tamura struggles to defeat it even with his decay quirk and balance breaker. He has been fighting this legendary dragon for weeks on end. While fighting Ladon, he gains a sacred power which lets him overcoming the dragon, giving him his respect. Deku overcomes all his challenges. His once had trouble with knowing this will help him become the #1 hero, and he'll get a reward for it too. His only struggle is getting the key from Blizzard, which he failed to get so far. Days on days of failing, Deku starts to know how he moves and counterattacks. Blizzard, although being powerful, he does tend to get cocky. The final day comes and he stands off against Blizzard one last time for the key. Tries after tries, Deku fails to grab the key, and this makes Blizzard start getting cocky, knowing that he won't get it. Deku only has 5 minutes left on the clock before it's over. Deku rushes towards using a dragon shot to distract him, then come from behind to grab it, but Blizzard blocks it. Deku then uses a second dragon shot point blank to cause a big screen. He knows if he goes for spots where he doesn't expect it, he will attack, knowing from all his attempts. He then realizes, what if I attack him for the most obvious spot? He won't think I'll go. He goes right in front of Blizzard for the key, but Blizzard notices it and tries to get away but can't. Deku then boosts himself forward very fast and steals the key with 1 hour and 59 minutes on the spot. Blizzard says, "Well done, you have passed the training. Normally the people I faced would take way less time than you did. Looks like my cockiness, even from all my years of battles, still gets to me. Good job." Blizzard then calls Elisha to reward him for his training. A sword comes from the above, shining with a bright white light. Elisha says, "Now take this legendary sword that was called Draken Oxizer of Heroibus, also you could call it Heroibus. Wielded by the great Cadmus, this sword could defeat many draconic creatures. This sword is still very fatal against humans, but not as much to draconic-like creatures." Deku asks, "This is a bit extra, and where did you even get this?" Blizzard says, "This sword has been passed down ever since the first Dragon Emperor. Not all can wield it, only the strongest Red Dragon Emperors with enough will can use it." Deku walks up to the sword and D-Drag says, "Insert your scared gear power into it so it can fuse into one." Deku does this and successfully, and is now able to use it with his other sword from the Stain Killer. Blizzard says, "But more importantly, take this box and open it. Something special, please open it." Deku opens the box when suddenly a red flash hits him. It clears and Deku says, "What happens? I don't feel different." Elisha says that right there was your potential being unleashed. You might not feel it now, but you will soon. This potential will change you in various ways depending on what path you choose. Deku says in confusion, "What's that supposed to?" Blizzard says, "Training time is up, but bye." Deku wakes up in his bed realizing tomorrow is summer camp. Meanwhile, Tamura training is fighting the 7th legendary Dragon King called Ladon with the help of the 3rd strongest White Dragon female called Dracana, helping him throughout his training. Tamura struggles to defeat this beast even with his decay quirk and balance breaker. But from all this training, he gained a new power that deemed him worthy by the dragon. Deku also overcomes his challenges and gets rewarded with a legendary sword called Draken Oxizer of Heroibus, a sword wielded by the great Cadmus. This sword had the magical properties for slaying draconic-like creatures, but it is still very fatal to humans alike. Elisha gives Deku a box, and he opens it, and a red flash hits him. He doesn't feel any different. Elisha explains to him he just got his potential of the future, which will charge you depending on the path you choose and when it happens. Summer camp heads away and Class 1 are on a bus. They take a stop, and all get out of the van seeing one of the members of the Wild Pussycats, Pixie Bob, Todoroki. "Aizawa, what are we doing here?" "Aizawa, you'll see just right now." Everyone knows Anizawa pulled a fast one of them. But before they could process that, they got swept off the cliff and down near a forest where dirt golems started to appear. Pixie Bob yells, "You have to get to the training camp, which is on the other side of this forest. Good luck." Deku sees a golem and then goes into his balance breaker and punches it, destroying it. In this timeline, they did way faster in the time Anizawa and Pixie Bob had in mind. They arrive at the dining hall and see Mandalay with a small child named Koda. Deku introduces himself and then gets kicked by Koda. Lydia runs to Deku and shouts, "How could you?" The next day they do the same training as in the anime except for Deku, who trains with Drag and Deku head towards a quiet place. Deku Why are we here? D-Drag. We are here to see if you can channel that potential and unleash it. Deku sits down in a mediate position and closes his eyes. He sees a guy in a cloak in a dark void. Deku tries to say hello, but the NPC just responds with, "Hello, it seems like you are looking at your potential. Choose the right paths that are behind me. Choose wisely, or you will meet your demise." Deku. What do you mean by that? But then, he says the same thing again and again, every time. Deku asks Drag, "What's going on?" D-Drag. Ugh, looks like Elsha messed up a bit. The guy will keep saying the same thing over and over like an NPC in a video game for some reason. Deku walks towards a path that shows a bunch of flashes of the potential future. One way shows him dying to the White Dragon Emperor. The second path shows him destroying the world because the powers of the boosted gear took over him. The third one shows him killing the White Dragon Emperor, but becoming the #1 hero. The fourth one shows him as a villain working with the White Dragon Emperor. The fifth one shows him no flashes into the future. He does it again for every path and sees different prospects. Then he realizes what Elsha means. Deku says to Drag, "Looks like it's some sort of trial of me choosing the direction I want to head." Just like the dude said, if I choose wrong, I will meet my demise, but if I choose right, I won't. Drag. That's exactly what she was going for. Deku takes some time to think. By all the future flashes he sees, he then walks up and chooses the fifth one. Deku. This is the right one because all of the other paths already have my future decided for me. The fifth has to be the one because I decided my future. Of course, Drag says. Correct, now walk towards that path and unleash the power. He walks towards it, and a big gray flash engulfs him with the NPC. Very smart indeed. Most people would not have chosen that one. Deku opens his eyes. And Class 1A is all around him. Deku. What happened? They speak multiple massive shockwaves that came from you while you were meditating. And it was scary. Bakago. You get a new power-up like every week. What is it this time, bastard? Deku. I don't know. The night comes, and the League of Villains are on a tall cliff. Tamura. I want that blonde-haired boy Bakago, and if you see a green-head kid who has a red gauntlet, let me know so I can personally deal with him. All the villains nod, and they execute their attack. Meanwhile, the students are doing the test of courage. Taisu and Ochoko go in the forest when they see blue flames everywhere around the forest. Deku notices that Kota is still at his usual spot and has a strange feeling something terrible is going to happen. So he heads over there. Before we get back into the story, I would like to say that we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes over the hard facts of the anime presented. Now, in case you guys didn't know, we have a third channel called Anime Theory. Anime Theory mainly focuses on a large variety of mind-boggling anime theories. If you are interested in content like this, please check the description below or click the eye icon in the top right corner. Now, with that out of the way, let's get back into the story. Kota is about to be killed by Muscular when Deku jumps in and grabs him. Saving him, he puts Kota down. Muscular. You're not that blonde-haired kid I was looking for. But the boss did say someone like you were around. I need to bring you back to make this easy for yourself and come with me. Deku. Never. Deku then charges at him. He lands a punch on Muscular, knocking him back. Muscular. It looks like we're doing this the hard way then. Muscular and DQ began to fight, but Deku destroyed Muscular in the fight. Muscular on his knees and Deku turns around, saying, "It's over, you can't beat me." Muscular gets enraged by this and tries to go for a sucker punch, but Deku counters it, sending him off the cliff. Tamura hears fighting and flies towards the area where Deku is at. Drag. Someone is coming to get down. Deku grabs Kota and leaps down into the forest. He looks up in the trees, seeing Tamura. Deku then realizes who the White Dragon Emperor is. Deku waits until he leaves and then powers down, heading towards Anazawa to drop off Kota. While on the way, Deku dials Idia and Denkai. Drag. Just because you absorb your phone doesn't mean you can make calls. The gauntlet starts to ring and calls Denkai and Idia on the gauntlet. Drag. Whoa. That worked. He tells both of them the League of Villains are after Bakago from what Muscular said and that Kota is safe. Deku heads towards Anazawa to drop Kota off, because Deku made the call earlier. He can get Idia to tell Manatli what's going on and to send a signal telling everyone the news. Deku then gets to where Anazawa is and goes back into the forest, knowing there's more trouble going on. Everything from here goes the same, with Fumikage going out of control, etc. Things don't change until we get to where everyone is trying to protect Bakago. As Deku, Froppy, Ochoko, Todoroki, Fumikage, Mizo, and Bakago are walking through the forest trying to get to base camp, Mr. Compressor appears. He secretly turns Fumikage and Bakago into marbles as he is about to leave, and they spot him. Mizo. They're getting away with Bakago and Fumikage. We gotta stop him. Deku. I got this. Deku then goes into his balance breaker. He flies up, punching Mr. Compressor, making him drop the marbles. He then throws them to Todoroki and frees them. Mr. Compressor. Now you have done it this time. He uses his magic on Deku, but Deku can dodge it. Deku is getting closer to Mr. Compressor. Compressor. You can't dodge from point blank, and uses his magic. Deku knows he can't dodge, but he uses a dragon shot to deflect it, hitting Compressor instead. Mr. Compressor gets to turn into marble and gets tossed away by Deku. A marble runs twice in the head. Twice. Toga, was that you who just threw this strange marble at me? Toga, no. You sure it wasn't Dabai? Dabai. You guys are idiots. It came from the sky. And I'm standing from behind you. The marble transforms. And it turns out to be Mr. Compressor. Twice. What the heck just happened right now? How did you get hit with your magic, Compressor? It's that kid Tamura wanted alive. They are somewhere near us with the other boy. They hear something from the bushes. Then Dabai shoots a flame at the forest, but his flames get pushed back by a strange red energy ball. Dabai. What then? Deku's group shows out in the bushes and then realizes they have run into villains. Twice? Well, this should be easy. You brought them all to us. Bakago, calling us easy. You're just a mere weak, pathetic villain with a stupid black mask. Twice is mad and says, don't insult my mask. Let's get the... Something falls from the sky, making a vast dust cloud. It clears, and Deku sees Tamura with 2 white wings on his back with blue on the inside. Ah, Choco, who's that? He looks like your balance breaker Deku. Tamura, so. We finally might Red Dragon Emperor. Or should I say Izuku Midoriya? Deku. Stand back, guys. He's dangerous. I got him, Mizo. Are you sure that you can beat him by yourself, Todoroki? I trust Deku. This guy probably has similar powers to him, which none of us are suited to deal with. Tamura, how cute trying to protect your friends. Well, you 3 stand on watch. I'll handle this. Tamura then powers up into his balance breaker. And so does Deku. A big red aura surrounds Deku, and a white aura does the same to Tamura. Todoroki. This is gonna be one strong battle, I can just tell. Fumikage, you think Deku will be able to beat him? Lydia, of course. We put our faith into him, and he even said it himself. Deku. I'll end your reign of terror right here, right now. And charges towards Tamura. Tamura. We'll see about that. And charges back. Deku says this power, it feels amazing. What can I do with this power, D-Drag? D-Drag says you can now promote to a knight, bishop, or a rook. Tamura says now that you are done powering up, I can finally end you. Tamura tries charges into Deku for a quick blow. Deku says alright, let's try night mode. D-Drag says Welsh Sonic Boost Night. Deku's body becomes Skinner and dodges Tamura's attack. Tamura says where did he go? His speed wasn't this fast as before. It must have been his night mode. Deku appears behind him and D-Drag says Welsh Dragonic Rook. Deku's body becomes bulky and his hands grow really big. He punches Tamura, launching him through the forest. Tamura recovers from Deku's attack and shoots a powerful white beam out of his mouth. D-Drag then says Welsh Blaster Bishop. Large long back cannons start to appear on Deku's back and he launches a big red and green energy blast which pushes Tamura's attack back at him. Tamura tries to use his divine diving to stop the attack, but it fails and he gets hit by Deku's attack. Deku's energy blast can be seen and felt from everywhere in the forest. Anazawa is running with the remedial course students and Hitoshi says, whoa, what's that huge red blast? Testu pronunciation help. Says yeah, it almost feels like an earthquake. The blast flies and hits a mountain with a big explosion with dust flying everywhere. As soon as the dust clears, Bakago looks at the mountain and says what the hell, how can he make a clear straight line through a mountain? Choco says wow, Deku has that much power. Fumikage says yes indeed, what scary power. Tamura's armor is somewhat broken from the attack, but it quickly repairs on its own. Tamura says to Deku, not bad, I see you had some killing intent in that attack, I like it. But now playtime is over. Tamura appears behind Deku. D-Drag says look out behind you. Deku quickly turns around and activates his Rook mode. Deku then strikes back, their attacks collide and make a somewhat decent creator. Deku then hits Tamura with his left arm into the air and flies up after him. Albion says divide. Tamura can stop Deku's assault and send him back to the ground, but Deku rebounds back up. Tamura charges into, and the impact from both of their attacks cause a shock wave shaking trees and the ground. Deku manages to dodge Tamura's attack and then hits him hard with a combo of the Welsh Draconic Rook and the Draken Oxizer of Hero Abyss, which does devastating damage to Tamura. Tamura says, "How did he get his sword back? I thought I broke it." Albion says, "Yes, you did, but it only goes away from a short period before it reforms." Tamura thinks and says, "Let's try this plan." Then D-Drag says, "Keep on guard, he looks like he is plotting something." Tamura then launches a white beam that Deku dodges, but the beam comes back and hits Deku in the back. Tamura then uses his moment to grab Deku in his hands and starts to squeeze his whole body. Deku counters this by going into Welsh Dragonic Rook to up his defense and starts to boost trying to get out. Tamura says enough struggling and Albion starts saying divide, 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 divide. Deku is screaming in pain by the sheer grip of Tamura. Deku then sees his armor decaying away and says, "D-Drag, focus all on repairing my armor and defense." D-Drag says, "Roger that." Tamura says to Albion, "Why isn't my decay working? He should be decayed by now." Albion says he is constantly repairing his armor to counteract the decay. A very wise move on his part. Todoroki says, "We got to do something, we can't stand here and let him die." Sayu says, "Well, yeah, but they are too high up to reach." Ochoko says, "I got a plan, I'll make myself lighter," and Sayu, "Throw me up into the air. And Bakago, you send an explosion giving me an extra boost. Then I'll touch Tamura's armor and make him float." Fumiact says, "That's one crazy plan, but I like, let's do it." Sayu grabs Ochoko in her tongue and launches her up, and Bakago launches a large enough explosion to give Ochoko a good enough boost while not hurting her. Ochoko then flies at Tamura at a decent pace. She gets up close and touches Tamura, making him float for a split second before she vomits from the sheer weight of Tamura's body mass. This catches Tamura off guard and Tamura says what. The Deku then punches Tamura in the face and gets out of his grip. He says, "Who did that?" He spots Ochoko and says, "You'll pay for that with your life," and launches an energy ball out of his hand towards Ochoko. Ochoko, vomiting in midair, says, "I can't move, is this way I die?" Deku sees this and D-Drag says, "WL Sonic Knight." Deku flies towards Ochoko, barely able to grab her before the blast connects. He takes her to Todoroki and says, "That was a stupid move of you all, but that split second gave me just enough time to get out of his attack." Kaisu says, "You look injured, can you go on?" Deku says, "I must, it's the only way we will make it out alive." D-Drag says, "Your stamina and power is decreasing quickly because of your new power-up. We must finish things quickly." Fumikage says, "Do you at least have an idea on how to beat him?" Deku says, "Yes, I do." Deku then tells D-Drag, "Plan, we need to get up close to Tamura and transfer my energy to him. You said after he divides he stores the energy to make himself more powerful, correct? Well, if he overloads him with my power, we might be able to activate the safety seal that you were talking about." D-Drag says, "Correct. But if this fails, then he is going to be more powerful than ever before. You can also transfer your dragon-slaying sword powers with the transfer too." Deku says, "Great idea." Tamura says, "Stop talking," and charges towards to ground at Deku. Deku then uses his Welsh Sonic Knight to dodge the attack and goes up into the air. Tamura says, "Stop running and fight me," and flies towards Deku. Deku says, "Now is our chance, D-Drag." He charges towards Tamura and they are both about to collide until Deku was barely able to dodge Tamura's attack and touches him. D-Drag then says, "Transfer." Deku lands on the ground and looks up. Tamura says, "You fool, you just gave me more power, are you trying to?" Tamura screams in pain and is heavily breathing. Says, "What's happening to me? My body, it feels weak." He starts to lose power and starts to transform back. Tamura says, "Albion, what the hell is going on?" Albion says, "I don't know, this strange power is making me go crazy." D-Drag then says, "I guess you didn't see my partner transfer the property of the Draken Oxizer of Hero Abyss and his boosted gear powers to overload your Juggernaut drive." He then says, "Partner, finish it." Albion says, "I'm sorry, we have to activate the safety seal so you don't kill yourself." Deku then flies up at top speeds and Tamura says, "No, this can't be happening, I am powerful." Deku then goes into his Welsh Draconic Rook and uppercuts Tamura, breaking his armor, sending him towards the ground. Toga, Compressor, and twice run over and catch Tamura. Deku powers down and falls to the ground exhausted. Todoroki, Fumikage, Shoji, Sayu, Bakago, and Ochoko run over to help him up. They say, "Are you alright, Deku?" Deku says, "Just a couple of fractures." Dabai says, "Kyujiri has arrived, let's get out of here quick." They all start heading towards the portal with Tamura, but Bakago says, "Oh no, you don't," and charges at them. Dabai makes a huge firewall, stopping him in his tracks, and says goodbye. After the forest attack, the news praises you and its students, especially Deku, for being able to fend off the League of Villains. But this makes you look better, and Anazawa and other teachers won't have to hold a meeting since Bakago didn't get captured. Deku stays in the hospital for a day or two to recover from his battle with Tamura. All Might come to visit Deku and say, "I'm sorry I couldn't come to see you sooner, but great job on stopping Tamura and his league." Deku replies, "It's okay, and no, you shouldn't thank me, you should thank everyone. They all helped," All Might say in a serious demeanor. Deku I got a mission for you that you will help me with if you can go. Deku says, oh yeah, sure I will be able to. All Might say we've recently got some information where the League of Villains hideout is at. We are gathering many pro heroes to help us to stop them once and for all. I want you to come and help me with this because we believe Tamura Shigaraki will be there. You're the only one who has fought him and seen what he is capable of, so you would be our best bet for him. But with all this, you must not tell your classmates about this because we don't want them involved. Deku says perfect, then I'll help out. All Might say thank you for your cooperation. We will head there tonight, meet me outside of the hospital. All Might leave the room and D-Drag says you will be able to go full out. But I doubt Tamura will be able to use his Juggernaut drive again after that battle. Deku says what is my chance of winning if I do have to fight him again? D-Drag says I can't see the future but I do believe there is a high chance you will be able to win, due to Tamura not being able to use the Juggernaut drive since the side effects it gives. Not to mention you can still use your illegal move Triana. The night comes and Deku, All Might, and all the other pro heroes are ready to raid the hideout. The officer saw Deku and realized he was the boy who stopped the boss of the League of Villains. Endeavor also notices this and asks why did you bring this kid All Might? All Might say he is our best bet on defeating their leader, and so as our heroes are about to raid the League of Villains hideout. What troubles will they face next? Find out next time on What If Deku Had Boosted Gear. Thank you all for sticking around and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description. So feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video. So goodbye and have a divine day.